Welcome back to Scripps News Tonight, gang. The case against actor Alec Baldwin relating to the fatal shooting on the set of the film Rust in 2021 seemed finished, but a new report is undermining that notion. In April, New Mexico law enforcement dropped involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin for the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. They based that decision on the notion that the gun had been modified, which would back up Baldwin's assertion that he did not pull the trigger. But a new gun analysis that has emerged this month shows that the gun was not modified and that the trigger had to be pulled for the gun to fire. That could open the door for charges to be refiled against Baldwin in the case. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Josh Ritter to unpack this. Josh, this independent test suggests the trigger on the firearm Baldwin was holding had to be pulled for a shot to be fired, which goes against Baldwin's claim. What do you make of that?
Well, this is something that we've known for some time, and there was an FBI report that was originally done where that's the determination that they arrived at as well, that this gun just simply could not have been fired without the trigger being pulled. When the special prosecutor came along, and I should say the second special prosecutor that we've had, because this case has had a very long and tortured history. When the second special prosecutor came along, I honestly think they took a real new look at this case. And one of the things they pointed to was perhaps modifications with the gun, but I really think they took a look at the liability, criminal liability, may have decided that having Baldwin a part of this case is not making it a very strong case for them to try. Leaving it with the armorer, I think, is much stronger. So will this change things? I don't know. I don't think it will. I think it doesn't change things as far as his liability, meaning Baldwin's, but this case has had such a strange history that who knows what might happen.
Yeah, one of the things we mentioned earlier is that, it seemed like the case was done. Baldwin has already had involuntary manslaughter charges against him dropped. But with that in mind, what kind of weight does this independent report, this independent firearm analysis carry?
Well, it was something that second prosecutor I spoke of asked for. It was something that they alluded to they were going to do. They were going to have a separate analysis done of that weapon to determine if it in fact had been modified or if it could only be fired if the trigger was pulled, and that they said at the time that would cause them to perhaps reanalyze whether or not Baldwin would be brought into the case. But again, did he pull the trigger? Didn't he pull the trigger? That would be, I think, a much more significant thing if we were talking about an armed robbery where everybody knows that gun is lethal and everybody knows that gun is loaded. Here you're talking about an actor on set being handed a gun. This is an experienced actor. He's been handed guns many times on set. I don't think he's ever suspected that any of those guns might have been dangerous. I think that is the bigger problem for the prosecution, is his criminal intent. Does it even exist here? And less about the gun, whether or not he actually pulled the trigger, even though that seems to be so important.
Yeah, it seems like that may be the defense's strategy going into if charges are refiled. On that point, if they're refiled, what would Baldwin be looking at? Would it be the same charges as before? Would it be something different?
No, I imagine it would be the same charges that he was looking at before. I mean, nothing really changed as far as the evidence from the time that the case was dismissed to the time of a possible refiling against him, other than they did this test. So I don't think they've discovered anything new as far as other individuals being involved or anything that would change their view of the case. And if they view that somehow him pulling the trigger is the linchpin in all of this on whether or not he should be brought into the criminal case, I think he'll be looking at the same charges that he was before and that the armorer is now, which is involuntary manslaughter, which is dead serious. I mean, you're talking about potential prison time, so it's a very serious matter.
Yeah. Josh Ritter, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, helping us understand both sides of the equation here. Josh, thank you so much. We'll be continuing to follow this story as it develops.